name is Dean Atwal, and Dean is the producer and video journalist for JoyTV News and Joy Ride. Originally hailing from the UK, news journalist Dean Atwal is no stranger to the world of television. With a broadcasting career spanning over 2 decades, Dean now brings his motoring experience and offbeat entertainment in Joyride, profiling a variety of vehicles, automobiles, bikes, boats, ATVs, RVs, snowmobiles, and more. Please welcome Dean Atwal.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. How are we all today? Surviving the weather. Well, thank you for inviting me over. Dean, Joy Television, started off at the BBC straight out of university. And now I work for Moses Znaimer. He's the gentleman that started Much Music back in the day. He had City TV, Space Channel, and he started off broadcasting to what is now referred to as the baby boomer generation. They were all over Much Music back in the day. He's now got Vision TV, Joy TV, and Faith TV, which are cultural faith and opinion stations that broadcast across Canada. And his objective is to still take care of that generation, the baby boomer generation. He found that they weren't being serviced. Most of the programming today was targeted towards a younger generation. So most of our programming is targeted towards those that are aged 45 plus. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do. I'm going to show you an example, and then I'm going to take an opportunity to use this platform to hopefully create some change. I get invited out to speak here and there, and rather than you guys learn a lot about me, what I'd like to leave you with is a message that you can take away and spread for the betterment of media. So to show you one of the videos that I've done, can we play that video? Just an example.
Horses and their riders are recognised as road users by the Ministry of Transportation in BC, and drivers are once again being told to share the road.
Any rider in BC can approach their nearest ministry office or district office and ask for new signage or an enhancement of the existing signage. And it's important for people that are coming to live in a rural area to understand that the intersection of the urban and the rural is a place where you need to be cautious.
The average horse weighs about 1,000 pounds. Now imagine that coming towards you.
A lot of riders, a lot of drivers rather, they just don't seem to understand horses. Horses, they can be good, and then something will spook them, and suddenly they can be out in the middle of the road when it looked like they were just going along. A lot of times, I think, is they don't know that horses are unpredictable, and they can hurt your car just as much as they can hurt the person who's riding.
So one hand on the reins, whichever way you take your hand. If you take your hand to the right, you will go to the right. If you take your hand to the left, you will go to the left.
We got 3, and they go single file?
And they've made a single file, so it's a full yield. And I'm creeping by, and then when I see them in my rear view, I accelerate away normally.
Recent reports indicate that there's over 7,000 horses located here in the township of Langley. Dean Atwal and Freckles for JoyTV News.
Short 2-minute story, news. Now, what we do is after that news story is we encourage our viewers to either go to our website or to watch the longer version of that. And I'll explain why a little bit later on. So that was a 2-minute video that you just saw with a few facts and a little bit of entertainment. Equipment that I'm using, this used to be, I would say, half the size of that television. I started off at the BBC with beta tapes. You're familiar with beta tapes? And then VHS, and then it went from VHS down to Hi8, then Digi-8. Anybody remember those tiny camcorder tapes? Yeah. And then we went down to, we got rid of the tapes, and everything now works on these little things here. Are you all familiar with these? I hate them because I lose them all the time, at least with the tapes. I could throw them at people if I didn't agree with them, but I can't do that anymore with these. SD cards, this can hold about a roomful of what those VHS tapes could. It's amazing. So the cameras now, way more advanced. We can control this robotically. So I could be talking to my producer, I could be out in the field, standing in front of this camera, and my producer could be zooming in. He could be adjusting the iris, adjusting the colors, and broadcasting from here to any live station anywhere in the world, really. As long as you've got an internet connection, we can broadcast to you. Now, I am a one-man show in a sense that Moses likes his videographers to be the researchers. Go find a story, go research it, go talk to people, take a camera, go shoot it, then go home, edit it, and then give it to me when you're done. And all of this we try to do in a short span of time. Now, we're not like your typical news hour where you'll get up in the morning, you go get a news story and come back and air it. I'm fortunate. I'm allowed to do stories that are important to me. So I take a bit more time in researching them and shooting them, editing them, and getting them to air. My turnaround time is usually about a week or so. Other items that have changed the industry. This is a drone, a mini drone. I can send this up 300 feet in the air, and I can capture a shot of an area. And I usually start my stories with this. You didn't see it in that JoyTV news story right there. It's a bit of an older story, but right now, what I want to do before any news story starts is to show where I am. And in beautiful British Columbia, who doesn't want to see the mountains, the oceans? This shot I couldn't afford before because I'd need a chopper or a crane. Average price for a 3-second shot back then, $6,000 to $10,000. This cost us $600. And I've crashed it a few times, and it's easy to repair. It's very cheap, it's very light, but it gives you that cinematic profile. So this has changed the way in which news is delivered because it gives you a broad strokes of where we are. This really came in handy during the Abbotsford flooding that was happening. To see me talking in front of the camera and then to shoot the damage wasn't as impactful as what this little fella did from up high. And then you could really survey the damage and see where the water had come from. So that's a little bit on my equipment and what we do. Now, I don't know how long I've got. I've got about 10 minutes left. How long? 15? Beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my message. So I want to talk a little bit about the future of news. Now, like I said, I joined the BBC right coming out of university, and I loved my job. BBC is a British broadcasting network. I worked we were developing an Asian portion of that, a cultural section of the BBC network. I was only there for a short period of time. Then I moved on to an independent station. And the independent station, again, I loved my job. I was able to do stories that I thought mattered. I was able to talk to community leaders, business owners, residents. We got to talk about and deliver stories that, talked about what would happen if your taxes went up. What about this new motorway that's going to be coming in past your neighborhood? How does that impact you? And then one day from this independent station, I got asked to do a story. And the story was on the damage of recliners. So you're all familiar with recliners, those seats that pull back. I was not familiar with a recliner. In England, we didn't have recliners like you do in North America. So then I spent a lot of time going around trying to find a story on why these recliners were so dangerous. And I searched around for a couple of weeks and I couldn't figure it out. They wanted that recliner story because it was a headline. It was grabbing attention. It was short and sweet. And that's what my boss wanted. He wanted me to do a story that would hold somebody's attention. Rather than talking about the things that matter, they wanted to talk about recliners. And it was all tied to advertising. There was an advertiser that we had that had a prominent furniture store in England. And that's when I fell out of love with media in the UK. So that's when I moved over to Canada, which was the Wild West back in the day. And I started out here. The philosophy in news out here, though, I found was the same. There's an expression that they have: if it bleeds, it leads. Sensationalism. You know, cover the gory stuff, cover the stuff that is sensationalized, cover the stuff that's going to grab attention. I found myself doing stories in Surrey and the Fraser Valley that were typically just another shooting, another stabbing, another car crash. And that was the news that was leading at the time. I wasn't good with that. I went to work for Moses. I told him what I wanted to do. He told me to go do it. I wanted to do stories that mattered, that were uplifting, that were positive, that were talking about an issue and then providing a solution, providing multiple perspectives. And why is that important? It's important because we need media that we can trust. So there was a recent poll out in Canada, and only 25% of those people that they polled had trust in news. 25% of that room is just you three fellas over there right now. That's how many people trust the media. And why is that important? Why should we trust the media? Think about all the decisions you make on a daily basis, what you're going to wear. So you're looking at the weather in the morning. You want to know who to vote for. You turn the news on. You want to know what to buy, what's trending. You turn the news on. People no longer trust the news. They don't really seem to, but I think we can fix this. And this is the message that I'm here to talk about today. News media, most news media outlets today want your attention. Why do they want your attention? Because it means more eyeballs. What do more eyeballs mean? It means more advertisers, right? Who pays the bills right now for the news media outlets? It's advertisers. Mostly it's just advertisers. So it's called the attention economy. That's what we've dubbed it. And we're very good at dubbing things right now. The attention economy. I think we can fix it. I think we can restore our trust. And I've got 5 ways in which we can restore our trust in news media. And it's very, very important, especially when news is coming to us in various sources right now. There's journalism and there's what we call news media. So the 5 things I want to talk about. Number 1, distinguish between news and journalism. I went to school for journalism. The industry that I'm in is news media. I've got to sell the hottest story, get your attention. Seek out information sources that take more time to explain things to you. Earlier on, I alluded to this video only being 2 minutes. And we encourage people to go to the website, or we encourage people to watch the longer form of that. Why? What are you going to learn in 2 minutes? What are you going to learn in 1 minute? In 2012, 80% of the news that was delivered was shorter than 1.5 minutes. 80% of your news was 1.5 minutes before the news broadcaster moved on to something else. How many opinions do you think you can get in that amount of time? Not a lot, right? You get maybe 1 opinion in there. So I encourage you, go for the long form. Number 2, opt for fact over opinion. When you're watching news shows, the way that they might capture attention for longer after showing a 1-minute clip is to have experts in, talking heads. Well, who are those experts? Who has an opinion? Mostly it's the opinion of one side, right? Unless it's an opinion from both sides, you're not getting all the information you need. Number 3, get out of your own opinion zone. I would say be aware of those that disagree with you and be aware of what they're saying. Now, it's easier to do now with social media. With social media, I can follow anybody whose opinion is not similar to mine. And I can follow leaders, politicians, business owners, get to know the facts, get to know the other side of the story. Number 4, go global. Consider having access to international news sources. Find out what's happening in the global conversation. It'll give you a broader sense of what's going on in the world. Number 5, old is gold. Go back to newspapers. Newspapers are a dying trend, but you know what? There's real journalists in there. And you know what? You pay for it. And that, I think, is the nugget. If we were to pay for our news media rather than the advertisers, if we were to demand facts over fiction, if we were to gather opinions that were different from our own, but also express our own, if we're able to support those, I think we would be able to change the media landscape. So an easy way to do this is to support the not-for-profits out there. You can go to a lot of social media sites and they'll ask you to donate. Buy a local newspaper, support those journalists over there. When we pay for our news, we're demanding that the news media supply us with journalism over what we've known to become as clickbait. Who here knows what clickbait is? Have you heard that expression before? Yeah, for those that don't know, it's a sensationalized headline that encourages you just to click on it. And then you're in a wormhole, you're in a rabbit hole of information that makes no sense. And all of a sudden, 2 hours have popped by and I can't feel my legs anymore because I've been sitting on the toilet too long. So that doesn't help anybody. So my message here today, and I know that was I kind of went in a roundabout way from going from what do I do, but I wanted to leave you with a message. Let's get news that makes more sense to us. And if you can spread that message, facts over fiction, longer form, do your research. Don't just listen to what Jimmy said next door. Don't just listen to what Angela said in a minute and a half on the news broadcast. Do your research and then spread that message. That's my chat for today. Thank you.